Please welcome City Clerk of Chicago, Anna M. Valencia, to present for the record.
This is very important right here. And I want us to really pay close attention to this because I have something to say. Obviously, I have a lot to say, but as it pertains to this right here, I just pay attention to what we're saying. Now, I want you to take a serious look at this still shot right here. Okay. And let me put the volume down. I'll let it play out a little bit while I'm speaking. Take a good look at it, right? What you're looking at right here is the future of Black politics in Chicago. What you're looking at on your screen right now is Black politics post 2030. Okay. This is something that I've spoken about in great detail in a live stream that I did. I believe it was in 2020 or 2021. If I remember correctly, that live stream was titled, oh boy, I do so much. I believe that live stream was titled, Black Americans will be politically finished by 2030. And I go into great detail into speaking on why that is, right? And essentially the long and short of it is that by 2030, in between all of the attempted to have a fast track to citizenship, and then also now what I didn't include back then because what I didn't understand back then and what I didn't see coming was the non-citizen voting. And then you take into account also the so-called man-made migrant crisis that's happening, right? That I couldn't have foreseen coming in 2020, early 2021. All of this leads to a point to where numerically Black Americans in these major cities, as well as other cities in the South as well, because the South, you in the South, you're not excluded, but to a point to where numerically you are so outnumbered, right? You are so outnumbered that you will be completely politically finished. And every city, particularly in this case, since we're focusing on Chicago will look like Los Angeles, right? To where you have no representation at all, no serious representation, and no real shot at serious representation, right? This is why you saw during the mayoral race, and I covered this here when Karen Bass was running for mayor, she almost exclusively only addressed the Hispanic community. Almost exclusively only addressed them. I don't know how many of you remember that video, but she almost only exclusively addressed them only. And then she went to the AAPI community afterwards, right? And then after that, it wasn't until it seemed like almost darn near a week before the election, then she finally had a conversation. I believe it was with like the Black Press or something like that. Shout out to Slauson Girl if she's in here, because I know she attended that. Slauson Girl's an independent journalist out here in Los Angeles, right? It wasn't until what seemed like the last week of the election she finally spoke to Black folks, to Black Los Angeles, because out here for the most part we've lost all our political power. Completely. All right. For the most part, if we're speaking honestly and frankly, the Black vote here in Los Angeles and California in general, it just doesn't mean anything. It's pretty worthless if we're being honest, right? That's why Karen Bass could be running for mayor out here in Los Angeles and literally does not have to address you at all until the very last minute, just to say, technically, yes, I spoke to the Black community, right? Just so technically I can say that, right? You can't say I didn't. But she didn't address you all, or at least us here in LA, until the very almost last minute to when the election was getting ready to start. And this is what you're going to see happen in Chicago. Another thing that I've covered thoroughly was the fight between the Hispanic caucus and the Black caucus in Chicago, the fight that they were going through after the 2020 census was released, and it showed that in Chicago, if I remember correctly, Hispanics now have a slight majority over the Black population in Chicago, right? And with that majority, the Hispanic caucus wanted to rearrange the my mind is failing me right now. They wanted to rearrange the district. They wanted to redistrict the Chicago map so that the Hispanic caucus can gain more ground and could have more areas within Chicago, right? So that Hispanics can, in theory, have more representation since there's more of us here than Black folks in Chicago, right? This lasted for, I think it was maybe close to a year, something like that. Maybe not a year, maybe 8, 9 months, something like that. But close to a year, where they were fighting it out over how the map should look. And ultimately, what happened in a nutshell is that the Hispanic caucus, they backed down. The Hispanic caucus said, you know what, we're not going to fight with the Black caucus anymore over this. We're going to let you all have it. You can have the majority of the districts, right? You can take it how it is, just fine. And the reason for that is because they understood it was pointless to go back and forth with the Black caucus and then take it to a vote and keep extending all this energy fighting and going back and forth with them, because they know that once the 2030 census is released, metaphorically speaking, right, it's going to be a bloodbath as it pertains to how thoroughly you are outnumbered in Chicago when it comes to Hispanics versus Black Americans, right? And maybe that wasn't the best metaphor to use, but I think you all follow my drift, right? They're going to outnumber you by leaps and bounds. They have a slight majority over Black Chicagoans now. After the 2030 census comes out, forget about it. Forget about it. No competition. And they're going to come back for everything when it is time to redistrict Chicago. They are coming back for everything. So it wasn't worth the fight now. They said, you know what? Just wait till 2030. And when the census results come out and we're drastically overpopulating you, right, by probably 5% or more, we're coming back for everything. And that's what's going to happen. And this is going to be the future of Chicago politics. Joe Biden was not lying to you when he told you. How many of you all remember when Joe Biden had that secret meeting that was somehow leaked, which it wasn't, it was deliberately put out, but they said it was leaked, where he told our so-called Black leaders, right, you're going to have to learn to get along with the Hispanics because they're going to be more than y'all. Remember when he said that? There's more of them than y'all. They're going to outnumber y'all. Remember when Biden said that? He said, don't worry about white folks no more. Don't worry. Hey, that Black-white dynamic, that done came to an end. That's over with. That time done passed. It's past. Joe Biden literally told you, or told us, I should say, you're going to have to learn to get along and deal with Hispanics because there's going to be more of them than y'all. And that's just the fact of the matter, right? So that's enough of me, rambling on this particular portion right here. Let me play this video and we can carry. See, so, and just to piggyback a little bit on what I was just saying earlier, now the question becomes, how do we as a people fortify ourselves? How do we protect ourselves and fortify ourselves? Not from physical violence, but from political and economic violence. How? That's the question that must be asked. And that's what we need to be moving towards, is fortifying ourselves and getting ready to be in a new world where, as I've discussed numerous times before, you will be number 4 on the population list behind Hispanics and the AAPI community. What is it? By 2064, 2065, Black Americans will be overall in the United States number 4 on the population list. How do you survive that politically and economically speaking? That is the question. That is the question. Now what we're going to get into next, what happened after Miss Anna M. Valencia spoke and was inaugurated in this event,